Good morning, everyone. My name's Hannah. I'm a compulsive overeater visiting from Gloucester. Thank you very much for inviting me. I have just over 4 years in the programme, and it's very easy for me to remember because I walked through my first meeting 5 days after my wedding. And I have just under 4 years abstinence. It'll be September the 20th. Easy to remember because it's 4 days after my birthday. So all those anniversaries fall very nicely in to help me remember where my abstinence sits. But to be honest, my abstinence date is almost more important to me than both of those dates, which anybody who knew me pre-program would fall off their chair to hear me tell you, because my birthday is clearly everyone's most important day of the year. But my abstinence is just the most incredible thing in my life, and I do love celebrating that day as well. So me before program, I think, quite frankly, I wouldn't have been my own friend. Weight loss. Sorry, I always forget that bit. So I've lost about 5.5 stone overall since I joined the program, and I have been steady for 2 years now. And I think remarkably didn't gain weight over OA, COVID. I didn't gain weight when I had COVID, didn't gain weight during lockdown, just kind of stayed a bit steady. So pre-OA, I was angry. I was angry all the time and at everyone. I blamed everybody apart from myself for my weight gain. I have a very vivid memory of standing in a shop and thinking, if I could just give up chocolate, I wouldn't be fat, I wouldn't have these problems. And then buying about £10 worth of chocolate anyway, and blaming the creators of chocolate for the fact that I couldn't resist it. Because obviously they were targeting me in that exact moment. I was unhealthy, unfit. I was depressed, not just linked to the weight, but, just very depressed. I was not a nice person to be around. I was constantly counting down to my next meal, or my next bite, because meals were fairly non-existent. It was really good between breakfast and lunch, and then pretty much ate constantly from lunch to sleep. I would eat to black out, where I was either going to throw up or pass out pretty much. I wasn't a purging person, so I would generally just choose to pass out. And I just couldn't maintain relationships. I was angry at my parents for existing, angry at my sisters for existing, angry at myself for existing. And somehow during the last 2 years before I found program, I met and managed to fall in love with me, my husband. And my rock bottom day, the day that I sat there and said, I can't do this anymore, was my wedding day, where I was all dressed up, ready to go, getting some pictures done, absolutely freaking out over what I was going to eat. I had 3 breakfasts, but I didn't know when I was going to eat again, and I was panicking, and it resulted in my niece feeding me crisps in the car on the way to my wedding, my 8-year-old niece. And I sat there and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this to myself. But what am I portraying to my niece, that on your wedding day you're going to want to eat crisps? I was wearing gloves, which is why I didn't feed myself. But yeah, and so I was very, very fortunate in that about the week before I had gone to the doctor to sort some things out, and he had a sister in OA, and I was saying, look, I can't stop eating. It was obviously on my mind, and he said, NHS is rubbish for compulsive overeaters. We can't help you. We don't know how to, but my sister goes to Overeaters Anonymous. It's changed her life. Why don't you give it a go? And so, as I say, 5 days after my wedding, I got married on Saturday, which is Thursday, that my home meeting is on. I walked through the doors and I just found the place where I belonged. I heard all these stories of people like me who had picked food up off the floor and eaten it, had gone through the bin just to find that wrapper, just in case there was something else on it that you could eat, who had stolen food, stolen money for food, who had eaten, I don't have kids, but they'd eaten foods off their children's plates. There was nothing that they hadn't done. And there was nothing that could shock me, because I had gone to those extents as well. And I heard all these stories and all these shares, and I sat there and I was just like, there was no doubt in my mind. I obviously worked step one once I got a sponsor, but I think I accepted step one that day. I was a compulsive overeater, and this was where I needed to be. I couldn't possibly be anywhere else because nothing else had worked. My parents had sent me to hypnotherapy. I'd done diet programs, and I just heard these stories and saw these people, and I was like, yeah, I am a compulsive overeater. I belong in these rooms. So that is game-changing day, 16th of August. It took me a month to find a sponsor. I started trying to develop some abstinence by myself, trying to put in some food restrictions. I basically put myself on a diet for the first month. There was no one available to sponsor in my meeting. This was pre-COVID, so everything was still in person. There were really no meetings very local to me that I could get to. So it took me a little while to find a sponsor. And I put myself on a diet. And the day I called around the sponsor list, it was 4 days after my birthday, and I'd had a carrot cake for my birthday instead of a chocolate cake because I was trying to diet. I look back at her and I'm just like, bless her, she was trying so hard. And I was sat at work, and I worked in a small site that had as a shop seller basically, and I had basically bought all of the chocolate there and eaten it. And then I stepped outside, there was no one on site, and I started calling down the sponsor list because I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is not working for me. And I found my sponsor, and I was abstinent from that phone call onwards, basically. She said, give up the sugar. I was like, oh my God. And I find a lot of people resist this. And I have found when I'm sponsoring people, a lot of people resist this, but an alcoholic is allergic to alcohol. That is what the big book tells us. It is an allergy. As a compulsive overeater, we have an allergy. Therefore, it must be to a substance. For me, it's sugar. It's 100% sugar. And I'm yet to meet a compulsive overeater who can eat sugar and have the kind of program that I want them to have. Or not that I want them to have, but have the kind of program that I would want to have. Because God, the withdrawal was awful. The headaches, the mood swings. Again, I was 1 month married. I am amazed that I am still married. I was not kind. My husband is is a saint. But I found my sponsor. I started doing step one, and every question on step one, I was like, yes, I'm a compulsive overeater. Yes, I'm a compulsive overeater. Give me more. Give me more. My sponsor told me her food plan. I said, right, I'm going to eat that. I need to eat that because I can't do food. And one of the things that I've realized actually quite recently, in the last year or so, since we got a dog basically, is I have no sense of portion size. And that is why I weigh and measure my food, because I will give my dog half a tin of food, and I'll go back the next day to give him half a tin of food, and there'll be like quarter of a tin left if he's lucky. I just can't eyeball it. I just can't see it. And that's fine for the dog, he'll survive. For me, I weigh and measure my food, because if I can't even judge half the tin that I give him every single day, I definitely can't judge how much is a cup of porridge, how much is a 6 ounces of meat or whatever. So that for me was just, okay, buy scales. Didn't even own them. Buy scales, buy cups, buy pots. I have a pot that I know is 6 ounces of nuts, so I just know I can put that amount of nuts in it and it's fine. So I started working the program. I worked the steps. I think I worked them quite quickly, and I worked them quite hard. I was kind of up to step 9 within a year. I needed it. I was desperate, so desperate to just live a normal life, to live a happy life. I had happy moments in my life before, but I wasn't allowed to experience them because I couldn't. If I experienced happiness, I would have to experience all the other emotions. So I ate all the emotions, including the happiness. I got really well in the food. And then because I was well in the food, because I was clear, I was able to start getting well mentally. Got myself into therapy, spoke to the doctors, and got myself well kind of overall, rather than one thing being okay and everything else being shit. So I just worked my program, and I think the thing that I avoided initially was the tools. 9 tools sounds like
5
a
more
lot.
minutes.
Thank you very much. 9 tools sounds like a lot to be doing every day. But I think the word tools is really helpful for us. I imagine it as a toolbox, and making a IKEA bookcase. And if at the end of building my bookcase, I've still got something left, chances are that bookcase is going to fall down because I haven't put everything into it. So that's how I see the tools in OA. If I don't use all of them on a regular basis, my program is going to crumble because I haven't put everything into it that it needs to be a secure structure. So my life now, I think was the last thing, is good. It is quiet and peaceful, and it's not necessarily different to how it was before. My parents are still my parents. There's still drama there that they can create, and my sister is still my sister. Recently, she wrote a book that I didn't purchase because it doesn't sit well with my beliefs, and she's not talking to me. And 4 years ago, that would have been an excuse for buying every piece of food that ever existed and eating it, blaming her for everything, and then going back to her and, forcing myself on her. Now I'm just peacefully sit with it. When she's ready, she can come to me, and I pray for her, because she is not I can't remember what it says. It's not a normal person, but you know what I mean. She's not well herself, and I wasn't well. And when I wasn't well, I was like that. I could hold a grudge. That was just not nice. So I pray for her, and it means I can get on with the rest of my life. I don't sit in it anymore. I don't wallow in the mud. I can live with the fact that I'm sad that we're not speaking. But that's okay. It's okay to be sad and to sit with that and feel that emotion, and then go and do something else, do some writing on it. And then, I've already mentioned the dog. I walk the dog. It's just, I don't have to sit in those things that are going to drive me back to the food. I'm nicer to be around. It was my best friend's wedding a few weeks ago, and she had a very OA unfriendly wedding. There was no food times that were reasonable. It was like eat at 11 or eat at 9 o'clock at night. I was like, that is not okay. And I was there for 2 nights because I went down the day before, and I just took a bag with meals labeled in it, and I just took myself away for 10-15 minutes at my meal times, and I ate my meals. And you know what? It was the best wedding I had ever been to. I was present, I was engaged, I was able to be proud of her. And they were bringing out cheese platters and wedding cake and so much food, and I didn't even see it. I don't think I even went near the table in the end, because I didn't need to, because the food wasn't the priority. And when I was in the food was always the priority. Food was always the closest thing in my mind and the next thing I was thinking about. Instead, I was able to support my friend when she got married, and that was really mind-blowing for me. And that's 4 years in. Every day something happens that I'm like, God, if I was in the food, I couldn't do this. And I think I just want to finish with, and I believe I have to give you a theme, and it should be recovery as possible, because I meet so many people who have been in program for whom they haven't found recovery yet. They haven't found a way to work the program that has led them to recovery. But it just is. It's miraculous. I could not do this without this program. So if you leave with any message, leave hearing that recovery is possible and freedom from food obsession is possible, and you can find it here in these rooms. And I think that about takes me up to time, so I will leave it there. Thank you very much.